The humidity hanging over the city was thick, but it was nothing compared to the suffocating arrogance radiating from Officer Silas Graves. In his full, authoritative, bold, red-trimmed uniform, Graves moved through the crowd like a predator who owned the pavement. He didn't just walk. He loomed, his heavy boots rhythmically thudding against a stone, a sound that signaled the end of peace for anyone in his path. His target was Mrs. Eloise Thorne. She was a small woman, draped in a royal blue Sunday coat that had been meticulously pressed, holding a worn leather Bible as she waited near the park's entrance. To anyone else, she was a picture of grace. To Graves, she was clutter. The confrontation didn't start with a request for identification. It started with a violation of dignity. Graves stepped into Eloise's personal space, his shadow eclipsing her. Without a word, he reached out with a slow, agonizing deliberation and clamped his hand onto the royal blue silk scarf tied around her neck. With a violent, sudden jerk, he yanked the fabric, tightening it against her throat before the silk gave way with a sickening tear. As Eloise gasped, her hand flying to her neck in shock, Graves didn't let up. He wrenched her arm upward into a high-tension lock, the bone groaning under pressure. He slammed her back against a cold marble pillar, the impact sending her Bible skittering across the dirt. Graves' face was a map of unmasked malice. A thick, rope-like vein in his neck pulsed with a violent, rhythmic throb, and his nostrils flared with every jagged, heated breath of fury. His eyes widened in anger until the bloodshot whites were fully exposed, fixed on the elderly woman in a predatory glare. His uneven skin texture flushed a deep, angry crimson as he leaned in, his voice a gravelly snarl. This park is for tax-paying citizens, not for loitering relics. Graves spat, his spit landing on her cheek. You've got 10 seconds of vanish, or I'm going to see how well that coat handles the floor of a holding cell. He didn't wait for her to move. He viciously snatched her royal blue coat collar, jerking her forward and then slamming her back again, the marble vibrating with the force of the assault. He then ground his heavy black boot into her Bible, twisting his heel until the gold-edged pages were shredded and caked in mud. Across the plaza, the air had turned lethal. The family radius was already tightening, though Graves was too blinded by his own ego to see it. Sterling, wearing a gold silk blazer, stood by a deep navy SUV, his jaw set in a hard, serrated line. He wasn't just filming, he was a coiled spring. Beside him, Maya, in a silver designer dress, held her phone with a hand that didn't tremble, capturing every micro-expression of Graves' cruelty. They weren't alone. Uncle Marcus, a man whose presence felt like a mountain, stood in a deep navy tactical vest near the fountain, his eyes locked on Graves' hands. They moved with silent, coordinated grace, closing the distance from 3 different angles. Sterling whispered into a sleek, gold-cased comms unit. Target has initiated a Tier 1 assault. He has destroyed the Word and laid hands on the matriarch. The sovereign overtake is authorized. Wait for the chief's lead. Graves laughed, a mocking, hollow sound. He grabbed a pair of heavy steel handcuffs, the metal clinking with a finality that made the surrounding tourists turn away in shame. He began to ratchet them onto Eloise's thin wrists, leaning in to whisper one last insult. Wait, before the sovereign overtake begins and this officer's career is liquidated forever, ask yourself, are you on the side of justice? If you believe that no one is above the law and that every family deserves protection, then join the BrightStoryDossier family. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell right now. We are building a dossier of truth, and we don't want you to miss a single reveal. Now, let's watch the walls close in on Officer Graves. The ratchet of the handcuffs never clicked. A hand like a vice clamped onto Graves' forearm, stopping the motion with such force that the officer's own bones creaked. Chief Julian Thorne didn't arrive with a siren. He appeared out of the shadows of the SUV like a force of nature. He didn't give a warning. He physically pried Graves' hand off his mother, twisting the officer's arm back in a bone-deep lock that drove Graves' face directly into the marble pillar he had been using as a weapon. You're checking for a permit, Graves? Julian's voice was a low, vibrating deep navy frequency that felt like the earth moving. Check the name on the bronze plaque behind you. You're standing in the park my family built, and you just put your hands on the woman who gave me my badge." Graves froze, the blood draining from his face as he looked into the eyes of the new police chief. The truth reveal didn't hit him like conversation. It hit him like a landslide. The ratchet of the handcuffs never reached its final notch. A hand like a vice, forged in decades of discipline and fueled by a son's protective fury, clamped onto Graves' forearm. The force was so sudden and absolute that the officer's own bones creaked under the pressure. Chief Julian Thorne didn't arrive with a rehearsed speech or a digital display. He emerged from the deep Navy SUV like a mountain collapsing onto a molehill. He didn't wait for Graves to react. He physically pried Graves' hand off his mother, his fingers digging into the pressure points of the officer's wrist, until Graves was forced to release his grip. With a single, fluid motion of sovereign authority, Julian twisted Graves' arm into a bone-deep lock and slammed the officer's face directly into marble pillar Graves had been using as a torture rack. The sound of Graves' nose meeting the cold stone was a sickening crunch that echoed through the silent park. "You're checking for a permit, Graves?" Julian's voice was a low, vibrating deep Navy frequency that seemed to hum in the very air. "Check the name on the bronze plaque behind you. You're standing in the park my family built, and you just put your hands on the woman who gave me my badge. You didn't just break a law today. Silas, you broke your own future." Graves tried to speak, but his face was pressed so hard against the marble that only a muffled groan escaped. He looked out of the corner of his eye and saw the family radius closing in. Sterling, in his gold silk blazer, stepped forward and snatched Graves' radio right off his shoulder, snapping the plastic clip with a sharp crack. "Looking for backup?" Sterling asked, his voice dripping with gold-plated contempt. "The entire precinct is currently on a mandatory stand-down order issued by the chief's office 3 minutes ago. Your frequency is dead. Your support is gone. You are completely alone in this park." Uncle Marcus stepped into Graves' line of sight, his deep Navy tactical vest making him look like an immovable wall. He reached down and picked up the shredded royal blue Bible from mud, his eyes promising a reckoning that no courtroom could provide. The humiliation was a physical landslide. Julian didn't wait for internal affairs to arrive. He initiated the liquidation himself. He unbuckled Graves' duty belt, the heavy leather and steel gear crashing into the dirt next to the ruined Bible. Maya, silver designer dress, moved in close. Her smartphone focused on Graves' face as Julian reached for the bold red badge on the officer's chest. With a violent, rhythmic jerk, Julian ripped the badge off, the fabric of the uniform tearing down to the seam. "The law isn't a weapon for bullies, Silas. It's a shield for the innocent," Julian growled, his gold luxury watch catching the light as he manually forced Graves' own handcuffs onto the officer's wrists. Graves was swept off his feet by Uncle Marcus and dragged by his bold red collar across the wet pavement, his boots scuffing and squeaking as he was hauled toward the waiting deep Navy SUV. He wasn't being taken to a precinct. He was being taken to central processing as a felony suspect. The tourists and citizens he had spent the morning intimidating now crowded around, their own phones raised in a chorus of jeers, filming the total collapse of his ego. Julian helped his mother, Mrs. Eloise Thorne, stand upright. He brushed the dust from her royal blue Sunday coat and handed her the mud-stained Bible Marcus had recovered. The air in the park was still, every witness leaning in to hear the final word. Eloise looked at the cage van where Graves sat, his unmasked terror visible through the reinforced glass. She spoke with a quiet, bone-deep power. "A man who thinks a uniform gives him the right to crush the weak only proves he is the weakest of all. You looked at me and saw an old woman with no voice, but you forgot that every child I raised was taught that justice is a debt that must always be paid in full. You traded your honor for a moment of cruelty, and now you will learn that the law you claim to represent is the very hand that will hold you accountable. Power isn't found in how hard you can shove. It's found in the strength of the family you try to break. Today, the park is finally clean." The deep Navy SUV roared to life and pulled away, leaving Graves' ripped badge lying in the gutter, a discarded piece of tin that no longer held any power.